The knock on the door came at exactly 9 a.m. Jack Morgan froze, his coffee mug halfway to his lips, as he locked eyes with his 7-year-old daughter Emma across their small kitchen table. They both knew who it was. The black limousine had been parked outside their modest suburban home for the past 20 minutes, drawing curious glances from neighbors. "Remember what I told you, sweetheart," Jack whispered, setting down his mug with a trembling hand. "No matter what happens today, I will always fight for you." As he walked to the door, Jack's mind raced back to that fateful night when his simple act of kindness had somehow led him into a war with one of the most powerful men in the country. If you're feeling the tension already, hit that like button and subscribe to see more incredible stories of ordinary people facing extraordinary circumstances. This journey of a single father standing up against impossible odds will touch your heart in ways you never expected. 3 months earlier, Jack Morgan's life had been difficult but manageable. At 34, he'd spent the last 4 years raising Emma alone after his wife Sarah's death from cancer. Their small 3-bedroom house in Millfield was nothing special, but it was home. Jack worked as a high school English teacher, making just enough to keep them afloat while ensuring Emma had everything she needed. Their routine was simple but filled with love: breakfast together every morning, Jack reading to Emma before bed each night, and weekends spent at the local park or library. That routine was shattered on a stormy Friday night in October when Jack answered a knock at his door to find a drenched young woman standing on his porch. She couldn't have been more than 25, her expensive clothes soaked through, mascara running down her face. "My car broke down," she explained, her voice barely audible over the pounding rain. "My phone's dead, and yours is the only house with lights on. Could I possibly use your phone to call for help?" Jack hesitated only briefly before stepping aside. "Of course, come in. I'm Jack, by the way." "Olivia," she replied with a grateful smile. Olivia Harrington. The name meant nothing to Jack then. He had no idea that Olivia Harrington was the daughter of Maxwell Harrington, the tech billionaire whose company, Harrington Innovations, had revolutionized artificial intelligence and made him one of the wealthiest men in America. Jack simply saw a person in need. After calling a tow service, they discovered it would be hours before anyone could reach them due to flooding on the main roads. Jack offered Olivia the guest room for the night, which she gratefully accepted. Emma, always friendly and curious, took an immediate liking to their unexpected guest, proudly showing Olivia her collection of stuffed animals before Jack tucked her into bed. Over cups of hot tea, Jack and Olivia talked late into the night. He learned she had been driving back from visiting a friend when her car had hydroplaned off the road. She was surprisingly easy to talk to, asking thoughtful questions about his teaching and listening intently to stories about Emma. Jack found himself opening up about Sarah, something he rarely did with anyone. "She sounds like she was an amazing woman," Olivia said softly. "She was," Jack agreed, surprised to find himself smiling rather than feeling the usual pang of grief. "Emma has her smile. And her stubbornness." Olivia laughed. "I noticed that. She's wonderful, Jack. You're doing an incredible job with her." The next morning, Olivia's driver arrived in a sleek black car that looked comically out of place in Jack's driveway. It was only then, as she thanked him for his hospitality, that Jack realized she might be someone important. "If there's ever anything I can do for you," Olivia said, handing him a business card with just her name and a phone number, "please don't hesitate to call." Jack had placed the card on his refrigerator and thought little more of it. Their lives returned to normal, though Emma occasionally asked about the pretty lady who had stayed with them. 2 weeks later, a package arrived containing a handwritten thank you note from Olivia and a beautiful illustrated edition of Alice in Wonderland for Emma. Jack sent a brief text of thanks to the number on Olivia's card, and to his surprise, she responded immediately. Their text conversation continued sporadically over the following weeks, mostly about books they'd both read or funny stories about Emma's adventures at school. When Olivia suggested meeting for coffee one Saturday, Jack agreed without much thought. Emma was having a playdate with a friend, and he found himself looking forward to adult conversation that didn't revolve around school curriculum or parent-teacher conferences. One coffee date turned into several. Olivia was intelligent, kind, and genuinely interested in Jack's thoughts on everything from literature to education reform. She never mentioned her family's wealth, and Jack, who rarely followed business news, remained blissfully unaware of exactly who she was. He knew she came from money, her clothes and the car that occasionally dropped her off made that obvious, but it didn't seem important. By December, Jack realized he was falling for Olivia. Emma adored her too, especially after Olivia spent an entire Sunday helping them decorate their Christmas tree and baking cookies shaped like snowmen. For the first time since Sarah's death, Jack allowed himself to imagine a future that included someone else. The illusion shattered 3 days before Christmas. Jack and Emma had just returned from the school's holiday concert when a black limousine pulled up outside their house. A tall, imposing man in his 60s emerged, his steel-gray hair perfectly styled, his cashmere coat probably worth more than Jack's monthly salary. "Mr. Morgan," the man said, not bothering to introduce himself. "I'd like a word." Jack sent Emma inside to get ready for bed, an uneasy feeling settling in his stomach. Once they were alone in the living room, the man got straight to the point. "I'm Maxwell Harrington, Olivia's father." His cold blue eyes assessed Jack and found him wanting. "Whatever you think is happening between you and my daughter needs to end immediately." Jack stared at him, momentarily speechless. "I think that's for Olivia to decide," he finally managed. Maxwell's laugh was devoid of humor. "You misunderstand. This isn't a request. Olivia has responsibilities, expectations to meet. She's set to take over a significant portion of my company next year. Her future has been planned since before she was born, and it doesn't include a high school teacher from the suburbs." "Have you discussed this with Olivia?" Jack asked, struggling to keep his voice level. "My daughter is going through a phase. She's always had a soft spot for charity cases." Maxwell's gaze swept dismissively around Jack's modest living room. "I'm simply accelerating the inevitable conclusion. Save yourself the embarrassment, Mr. Morgan. Walk away now." After Maxwell left, Jack sat in stunned silence until his phone buzzed with a text from Olivia. "My father just told me he visited you." "I'm so sorry, Jack. Whatever he said, please don't listen to him. Can we talk tomorrow?" They met at a small cafe the next morning. Olivia was furious with her father but not surprised. "He's always been controlling," she explained. "Ever since my mother died when I was 12, he's treated me more like an investment than a daughter. I've spent my whole life trying to please him, following the path he laid out for me. Until I met you." Jack listened as she described the pressure she'd been under, the prestigious schools, the carefully selected social circles, the grooming to eventually take over her father's empire. "But none of it has ever made me happy," she confessed. "These past few months with you and Emma, that's the first time I've felt like I could just be myself." "What do you want, Olivia?" Jack asked gently. Her eyes filled with tears. "I want to see where this goes. I want to spend more time with you and Emma. I want to make my own choices for once." Jack took her hand. "Then that's what we'll do." For the next month, they continued seeing each other, though more discreetly. Olivia began spending more time at Jack's house, helping Emma with her homework and joining them for dinner. She confided that she was working on a plan to establish her independence from her father, setting up her own foundation focused on educational initiatives. "I've always had my own trust fund," she explained. "It's not billions, but it's enough that I don't need his money. I just need to find the courage to stand up to him." January brought a brief period of happiness. Jack, Emma, and Olivia settled into a comfortable rhythm together. Emma began referring to Olivia as her special friend, and Jack found himself imagining a future where the three of them might become a family. Then came the lawsuit. The papers were delivered to Jack's school, causing a scene that had the entire faculty buzzing with gossip. Maxwell Harrington was suing for custody of Emma, claiming Jack was an unfit father who had exposed his daughter to moral danger by allowing a strange woman to stay overnight in their home. The lawsuit was filled with distortions and outright lies, painting Jack as an opportunist who had manipulated Olivia for financial gain. When Jack called Olivia in a panic, her phone went straight to voicemail. His texts went unanswered. It was as if she had vanished. For 2 agonizing weeks, Jack heard nothing from Olivia while fighting to understand the legal nightmare he'd been thrust into. He couldn't afford a lawyer capable of going up against Harrington's team, and the public defender assigned to his case seemed overwhelmed by the resources being deployed against them. "I don't understand," Jack told the lawyer during their second meeting. "He's not related to Emma. How can he possibly sue for custody?" "Technically, he's not suing for custody himself," the lawyer explained. "He's filing as an interested party, claiming your daughter is in danger and should be placed with child services. But make no mistake, if he succeeds, he'll have a foster family of his choosing ready to take her." "But why? This makes no sense." The lawyer's expression was grim. "From what I can gather, Mr. Harrington is used to getting his way. You refused to back down when he told you to stay away from his daughter. This is his retaliation." Jack spent his evenings researching legal precedents and his days trying to maintain a brave face for Emma, who sensed something was wrong but didn't understand the gravity of the situation. His colleagues at school were supportive but concerned, especially as local news outlets began picking up the story of the billionaire's lawsuit against a widowed teacher. It was during this darkest period that Olivia finally reappeared. The knock on his door came late one evening after Emma was asleep. When Jack opened it to find Olivia standing there, he felt a confusing mixture of relief, anger, and love. "I'm so sorry," she said immediately, her eyes red from crying. "My father cut off my phone, froze my accounts, and essentially had me under house arrest. I had to sneak out tonight. I only just found out about the lawsuit." Jack let her in, and they talked in hushed voices at the kitchen table. Olivia explained that her father had presented her with an ultimatum: either she cut all ties with Jack and returned to the path he'd laid out for her, or he would destroy Jack's life and take Emma away. "He's always been ruthless in business," she said, wiping away tears. "But I never thought he'd go this far. I'm so sorry I've brought this on you and Emma." "It's not your fault," Jack assured her, though part of him couldn't help wondering if their relationship had been worth the risk to his daughter's security. Olivia reached across the table to take his hand. "I have a plan. My trust fund is in a separate legal entity that even my father can't touch. I've been in contact with a law firm that specializes in going up against corporate giants. They're willing to take your case." "I can't ask you to spend your money on this," Jack protested. "You're not asking. I'm offering." Her expression was determined. "My father needs to learn he can't control everyone through fear and money. And I love you, Jack. I love Emma too. I want to fight for you both." That night marked the beginning of their counteroffensive. With Olivia's resources behind them, Jack's legal team expanded overnight. They filed motions to dismiss the lawsuit, gathered character witnesses from Jack's school and community, and began building a case that exposed Maxwell Harrington's actions as a malicious abuse of the legal system. The battle quickly turned ugly. Private investigators followed Jack everywhere. Rumors began circulating at his school, causing the principal to call him in for an uncomfortable conversation about avoiding negative publicity. Emma came home crying one day because a classmate had told her she might be taken away from her daddy. Through it all, Olivia stood firm. She moved into a small apartment near Jack's house and officially resigned from her position at Harrington Innovations, announcing her intention to establish her own educational foundation. The business press had a field day with the story of the billionaire's daughter who had turned her back on her inheritance for love. Maxwell Harrington escalated his efforts. Anonymous tips to Child Protective Services resulted in surprise home inspections. Jack's ex-girlfriend from college suddenly appeared, claiming he had anger issues. The pressure was relentless. "He's trying to break us," Jack told Olivia one night after Emma was asleep. "And I'm afraid it might be working. I can't keep putting Emma through this." Olivia's expression was pained but resolute. "That's exactly what he wants you to think. He believes everyone has a breaking point. But we can prove him wrong." The turning point came from an unexpected source. Maxwell's executive assistant, a woman who had worked for him for 15 years, reached out to Olivia with a cache of emails and recorded conversations that revealed the true extent of his vindictive campaign. The evidence showed Maxwell had explicitly directed his team to find or create reasons to question Jack's fitness as a parent, with no regard for Emma's well-being. Armed with this evidence, their lawyers filed a countersuit for harassment, defamation, and abuse of process. The story exploded in the media, with public opinion quickly turning against Maxwell Harrington. Several of his company's board members expressed concerns about the negative publicity, and Harrington Innovation's stock price began to slip. Which brought them to this moment, with Maxwell Harrington himself standing on Jack's doorstep 3 months after their first confrontation. Jack opened the door, his expression carefully neutral. "Mr. Harrington. Mr. Morgan." Maxwell looked older somehow, the strain of the public relations disaster evident in the new lines on his face. "May I come in?" Jack stepped aside, leading him to the living room where Emma sat watching cartoons. She looked up, her eyes widening in recognition from the news coverage she'd inevitably glimpsed despite Jack's best efforts to shield her. "Emma, sweetheart, why don't you go play in your room for a bit?" Jack suggested gently. "Is he the bad man who wants to take me away?" Emma asked, her small voice filled with a child's directness that made Maxwell flinch visibly. "No one is taking you anywhere," Jack assured her. "We're just going to have a grown-up talk." Once Emma had reluctantly left, Jack turned to Maxwell. "Say what you came to say." Maxwell remained standing, his posture rigid. "I've come to propose a truce. This situation has gotten out of hand." "A truce," Jack repeated flatly. "After you tried to take my daughter away? After you had me followed, spread lies about me, and nearly cost me my job?" "I was protecting my family," Maxwell said, a hint of his old arrogance returning. "Surely as a father, you can understand that." "No," Jack said firmly. "What you did wasn't protection. It was control. There's a difference." Maxwell's jaw tightened. "Nevertheless, I'm prepared to drop the lawsuit and all other activities against you. In return, I ask only that you drop your countersuit." "And Olivia? What about her?" "My daughter is free to make her own choices," Maxwell said, the words clearly difficult for him. "I don't approve of them, but recent events have made it clear that my methods have only pushed her further away." Jack studied the man before him, trying to gauge his sincerity. "Why the change of heart?" For the first time, Maxwell's composure cracked slightly. "Because I'm losing her," he admitted quietly. "And despite what you may think of me, Mr. Morgan, I do love my daughter." Before Jack could respond, the front door opened, and Olivia walked in. She stopped short at the sight of her father. "Dad? What are you doing here?" Maxwell turned to face her. "Attempting to make amends, though I seem to be making a poor job of it." Olivia moved to stand beside Jack, taking his hand in a gesture that wasn't lost on her father. "Is that even possible after everything you've done?" "I don't know," Maxwell admitted. "But I'd like to try." What followed was a long, difficult conversation. Years of resentment and control issues couldn't be resolved in a single afternoon, but it was a start. Maxwell listened, truly listened, perhaps for the first time as Olivia explained how his controlling behavior had affected her throughout her life. Jack shared what the legal battle had done to Emma, describing her nighttime